It's the weekend again. Not a bad day. I went out for a blast in the MGB this morning. It's freezing cold, and then I realised I hadn't actually moved the heater valve to the winter position rather than the summer position. But I went to the tip shop and to the recycling place, which is next door, because I want some paper to use to make a template for the bonnet, so I know how to cut the metal, because it actually gets a little bit confusing because of the curves and the angles. The butcher's paper I've got it's not thick enough. It's just this stuff. It's too thin, it's too flexible, and it's too narrow. So I wanted to get something like a piece of old wallpaper. So I've got this. It's kind of vinyl wallpaper, which is quite good for making patterns. I think that was $1 from the tip shop. That may work fairly well. And then I got this sort of damp-proof paper from the recycling place. Again, that was like $1. It's just like an end of a roll. May have been used before, I'm not sure, but that may be a bit better because it's a bigger roll and it's quite thick. I got a piece of ducting, which this is good solid aluminium style ducting, which I want to see if that'll fit on my little diesel heater. And I also got a big M12 bolt and some little scraps of metal. So this is actually tube. I've used this sort of stuff before. It's really good for making standoffs. It's kind of thick wall steel tubing, just some mild steel square bar, a few little scraps of mild steel round, a nice piece of straight square aluminium that could be useful. I may use that on the little steam car to space apart the chassis rails which are there. But and I got an old lampshade, and all of that was, I think, $8. So not sure what Zelda's doing. And so the plan today is to start working on the bonnet for this. I'm also hunting around. I seem to be saying this a lot recently, but we bought some stuff to put in Head Gardener's car into the CVT transmission because it's starting to slip a little bit, and this stuff's meant to help. Maybe snake oil, but it's worth trying. And it's not cheap. I think it was about $80 for a syringe of this stuff, but I can't find it. I've put it somewhere safe, and like I say, I've been saying that a lot recently, and I keep forgetting where things are, which isn't a good sign. But I don't think I've really forgotten, because I know exactly where everything else that turned up at the same time is. So that was a pressure gauge to go on the spray gun for when I need to do some spray painting. I got a couple of cans of Brunox, which is anti-rust spray. Again, this is for Head Gardener's car, the bottom of her car. I got a box of sanding discs. I knew exactly where all of those were. I've put the other thing somewhere else, and that's the problem. I can't remember where. Pretty sure I haven't thrown it out. I certainly hope not. I'm very careful about that. But yeah, I'll just have to have a bit of a hunt around, see if it pops up. But yeah, good blast in the MG, good haul from the recycling place, and I think I'll start chopping this up and try and make that template. I'm playing with my paper and tape, and I've got a rough paper pattern. Needs some modification. This is always the problem I find with this, is even if you start off with a piece way bigger than what you need, you end up cutting off the wrong bits at some point. We'll see that on the other side, but you can see here it's not 100% accurate. But what I find is once you get it close enough, I can now mark on this, you know, make this edge half an inch closer in, I need to trim this a bit higher up, that kind of thing. But that's kind of what that will look like. It's actually sitting over the top of the hinge at the moment. I probably should have taken that out, but let's see. This is this side. you can see where I was trimming it and I trimmed a bit too harshly. So I need to remember to add that corner back in. Same at the front there. Need to add that front corner back in. But I think this should work without any real shrinking and stretching. I think it's all just folding or curving the thing, because you can see there aren't too many, there are not any places where I had to cut it to split it apart, or any folds where you have to shrink it down. But that gives me an idea. I need to mark the center line, because obviously I'm not going to cut it all in one piece. And this side will be the side with the hinge, because it might actually be possible to do that as one piece. No, it isn't, because it'll hit the back of the lamp. That's the problem there. So you need the hinge here so that you can lift this up and this section comes straight up. It can't come out because it'll hit this. So you do need a hinge on this side. The other side, if I've done things right, which I don't think I have, that side you don't need to get into, really. I don't want to bring the lamps any further forward, because that's not how they were on the actual car. This one has, can go a little bit forwards. Whoops. There's nothing you need to get to on that side, so if you do have to open the bonnet, if you do have to get to this side, oh, there is actually something you need to get to on that side. That's where the remote starter is, but that's okay. But if you're playing with all of that, you just take the whole bonnet off anyway. But yeah, the other side is the important side, because that's the side with the carburetors and the ignition and all those kind of things. So you definitely need to be able to get into this side. I think now I'll mark that center line, and I'll make some notes on this as to where I need to tweak the edges, and that'll give me my template for cutting out the pieces of aluminium. Trying to think the best way to do this. It took me multiple goes to get it right. On my Austin 7, it took me 2 or 3. So remove that, precariously balance it. So you can see this is how it'll work. There's the line down the middle, of course, and then same on the Austin. You need to lift it up vertically to clear the back of the lamps. And that folds over like that. So this hinge is all integral to the panel. It's quite a lot of work to do that, but we'll get to that. Poor little Austin 7. One day I'll have to see about getting this thing on the road. It's got spiders living in it. Make a vague attempt to keep the dust off. But, yeah, I think cutting the aluminium will be tomorrow. But gives an idea of what it's going to look like when it's all kind of enclosed. Should look pretty good. Just looking at this again. I have the Velocet running. I'm not sure if you can hear it in the background, but if I do bring the lamp as far forward as I can so it doesn't hit the stay here, I think this will just clear. So it'll come up like that. It's going to be very close, but I think I should be able to get that to work. I don't need much overlap at the front here, just needs to be enough to stop it falling in. So I think I'm just going to have to make it and see. So back onto the Riley now. One thing I got this week was another tachometer. This popped up on Trade Me. It looks like it's new old stock. I don't think it's ever been used. It says there's 1.6 engine hours at 2000 RPM. It is the proper 2-to-1 ratio for the Riley, and it's the proper anti-clockwise rotation. What I really want to do one day is take one of these. The ring on these, because they're industrial ones, is swaged over, but you can undo those. I've done that a couple of times now. So you can open that out and you can get into the mechanism that way. And then you can see I fitted a new face to this one. Not all of them have the hour meter. I think this one doesn't, but I was able to extend it round a little bit. It will go all the way around there, but what I'd quite like to do is make a bigger face for it, so I can go probably an extra ½ inch all the way around, extra inch diameter, just to make it bigger. But as long as it works, that's the important thing. What I'm going to do now, you can see this is fitting a lot better because it's been sitting overnight, so it's taken the shape. I'm going to trim this down the middle and use this as the template for this side, which will be a single piece. I'm pretty sure it's going to clear here, and then the other side I need to figure out where I'm going to put the hinge line. I think it'll be probably about here. And you have to figure out what the correct angle is so that it looks right. I did all this on my Austin 7. The first attempt I actually got it wrong. I put too much of an angle on it. So I guess it needs to be parallel. Kind of parallel. I'll put some tape on there anyway to figure that out. But let's see, I added extra tape, extra pieces on here. This is just my rough pattern. But I think what I'll do is I'll cut that first half off, and then I can tape that to the hinge, and then tape this down a bit more and figure out where I want that line to be, and then that will give me the two templates for the top half and the bottom half where the hinge goes. It's about 4:30. It's going to start getting dark pretty soon and it'll get cold really quickly. Bonnet is coming along. It's still not exactly right. I always struggle with these, and this one, it's almost like it's got a twist to it or something. If you pull it down as if it was going to be strapped down, it's fine. So I may actually just leave it how it is, because it fits all around there, fairly straight across there. Might need a little bit more clearance around the pipes, and I did mess up I cut the slot a little bit too big, but I can adjust the bottom one to match, and then front fits fairly well. The tape along the edges is because I leave these overhanging, then you have to trim them, and this isn't a straight line, it actually curves. You can see it there. Once it pulls down, it all kind of pulls straight. But in order to get that line, because it's overhanging this edge, you can't see it. So what I do is I lay a couple of strips of tape following that edge, front and back, and that effectively then brings the edge out. So I know that this line is parallel to where this line needs to be, and then I can lay tape on the bonnet using this as a reference, and that's how I managed to get that nice line. So this is where I start struggling a little bit, just trying to get at that last little bit. I did use to curve this. I used my tank down there. I used a piece of pipe in the vise, all covered in WD-40 to make it slippery. And I was doing what I'd seen Metal Shaper Tom do, which I'd never thought of this before. Nobody had ever showed me this before. Normally, when I was bending something, I would just sort of bend it straight down over the pipe. But what he showed is kind of sliding it over the pipe as you bend it. It's hard to explain. But you kind of slide it around the pipe to put the curve into it. That worked really well. And then I'm using my rubber wheel that I made for my wheeling machine, except it kept falling off. So basically what I did is duct taped it on. This is like race tape. And that actually worked pretty well. It stops it coming off, but it's still soft. I think a lot of the problem I have with my wheeling machine is actually the lower anvils and the edges, the radius on the edges. Also, I'm a bit rough, but you can see maybe there's sort of ripples in this. I can feel them actually. Where I was using the machine to sort of pull around the curves where I wanted them, and I'll need to go back and sort of wheel those flat. But if the bonnet fits pretty well, I'm okay with it being a little bit ripply. But yeah, you can see if once that's got a strap, there's sort of one strap here and one strap there, obviously that pulls it all down, pulls it tight, and it should stop all this rattling as well. This will all pull in, so I don't need to fasten this down anywhere. And there is plenty of clearance around the exhaust. I had it a lot tighter and then thought, well, that's going to get hot, so maybe put a bit of a bigger gap. So I will increase that gap around the top. But yeah, I actually managed to get my pipes reasonably straight, which is good. And I think I can trim that lower edge a little bit as well. I was thinking of putting like a joggle in it, but I really struggle to get those straight. So I'm thinking just leaving it as a straight edge and just having it overhang there rather than trying to do anything clever is probably going to be good enough. Maybe I will fold the edge over like I did on here, just to provide a little bit more stiffness there. That might be a good idea. And then what I could actually do is, if I leave that fold, don't fold it hard on top of itself, leave the gap, I could put a little strip of rubber under there. I think that might be a good idea. If I can get it like a millimetre, I've got some rubber somewhere. And that'll stop those rubbing on each other. Yeah, that might be a good idea. But yeah, how to get this twist out of it, that's what I'm not sure of. Now it's attached to the car, you can just kind of twist it a little bit on the car, and you can also see how my handmade radiator shell isn't exactly perfect. But that's okay. Oh, this is loose. I've managed to scratch this all up as well, so that'll need repainting when I take everything apart. That's the other thing, no matter how well I get this fitting now, I'm pretty sure once I take this apart to paint it and put it all back together, I'll never get it to fit as well. It's just the nature of these things, I think. Plus, once it's on the road, everything's going to move. But yeah, if I could just get this to twist down. I suspect because to wheel these things out, I'm going to need to do that without the rubber band on there, so I have to cut all that tape off. I think that may stretch this just a little bit, and I think that will help. I think it needs a little bit of shape in there. That's probably what's holding it up. This is where my lack of experience starts having an effect. Yeah, I think It's hard to tell, but smoothing those out will change the shape a little bit, but you get the general idea, and I think that's going to look pretty good once everything's painted and all the little seals and things are in and the straps are on, and you're not going to notice. Now, louvres are going to be a problem. I can't fit any this side unless they're very short. Not sure about this side. I think a line of them along there on that bottom panel would be quite nice, so I'll have to figure that out when I get to it. And here you can see how the hinge works. After I folded that edge over, I did have to file it just to get the fold over short enough that it would fit inside these hinge pieces. And even though these individually are quite loose, once you've got all of them on there and the little variations in them means the bonnet holds fairly tight. There's no way it can fall off not once this is all bolted down properly. Now, does it clear the headlamp? Just. And it'll fold back. It won't go quite that far when the other panel is in there, but that's how that'll work. You do have access to the starter button. You don't really need that. If you're ever using that to start the engine, you'll have the bonnet off anyway. Or the other thing you can do is you just hook up a remote button, clip it on the back there. Yep, like everything on the Brooklands, it's about ½ inch clearance there. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that so far. I might, no, I don't think I need to trim that anymore. It's not going to touch it, I don't think. The engine doesn't move much. The engine mounts on this are pretty stiff. And I think if the chassis flexes there, this is going to flex with it. So I don't think there's any danger of the exhaust hitting that. I keep forgetting it's fiberglass, so try not to touch it. But, it's not that holding it up, is it? Like I say, you can bend this a bit on the car. Well, I think I'm going to leave that there for now. I can tell the sun's going and the temperature's dropping. The aluminium is already starting to get freezing cold. Decided I'm going to weld a little piece on there where I've cut this too far. I'm going to extend this, fix that. I want it to be a bit closer there. I think the back's okay. I can trim the lower panel to match there, but the front, I'm not sure. I suppose I could just trim the lower one to match there, but I quite like how that line follows the line of the exhaust, the angle. Well, it depends where you look from, of course, but yeah, I think we'll do that. Well, I'll do that. I'll weld a little piece on there and then planish all of that smooth. I should be able to manage that, I hope. We will see. Yeah, I think smoothing this out will be next, and then a little bit of tweaking of the shape. So I really struggle to know what I need to do to the panel when I get to this point, because on a panel like this there should be no shape in it. It should be flat. It's just a changing radius curve, but I always find those difficult. Don't think it should be that difficult, but it is. Saying that, there is weird curve in this because this isn't flat, so maybe there is a bit of shape in it. Yeah, I've got a feeling if I did, I think it's going to tighten up when I wheel it smooth. We'll see. That'll be quite interesting. But yeah, that'll be tomorrow's job, maybe, after work. Also, took one of my shims out from under the door lock just to get that to fit a little bit better. It was rattling every time I touched the car or moved the car, which was annoying. The other thing I'll mention quickly is some of the Brooklands had an offset hinge. So I think it was offset to this side or the other side. I'm not quite sure. I have to check the period photos. I don't think they all had that. It's very difficult to tell these days because so many cars have been rebuilt and changed and given new bonnets and new bodies. So centerline and offset both seem to be Brooklands. I've heard two reasons why they did that. One was to make it, for the racing cars, it's easier then to open the bonnet and get a socket down onto the spark plugs, because you can see the spark plugs are directly on the centre line of the car. The other reason I've heard is it stops water coming in through the hinge and dripping straight onto your electrics. So that may be a problem, in which case what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little drip tray. So there is a bit of runoff on this. You can see there's a slight slope up. So I'm going to make a tray that just a simple sheet metal, probably aluminium channel, basically, that bolts up under here and sits underneath the hinge, and that'll collect any drips and they'll just run down the front behind the radiator. I think that it should work okay. I'm definitely going to put a rubber corner on that corner of the bonnet though, just in case. That's very annoying that that keeps springing up like that. Is it just because it's touching here? No, you can see because that end is much higher than this end, it's got a twist to it. Of course all the paint's going to rub off where all these things touch and jiggle around, but that's okay. That's part of that old race car look, I think. So I'm not going to worry about that. A little bit more work.